Baroness Morris of Yardley.
Thank you, my lords. My comments in this debate are going to follow those that have been made by the majority of members before, and I'm not sure that I've got anything particularly new to add, but this is an important issue, and I very much hope that the weight of numbers will have some sort of influence on the Minister and the government. So firstly, I do welcome the bill, and I share with the comments that others have made. It is late, and to be honest, we should be leading in this field, and we're very much lagging behind. I remember when I was first elected a Member of Parliament in 1992, that I looked round at my fellow new MPs in the Labour group, and it was amazing how disproportionately most of us didn't have children. And that's what it's been at every stage. We've always been late in making it easier for women to be involved in politics and to have a family as well. And nobody could have explained that stronger than Baroness Hayman has. So let's not stop here. It's with some humility that we should say that this is good legislation. It's something to be proud of because the government's got itself out of a bit of a difficulty with one person, but it cannot rest here. And I did welcome the comments that the Minister made about ensuring that we look at the other issues as well. But the reason I really put my name down to speak in this debate was to offer support for the reasoned amendment, which Baroness Snopes very ably moved, and which colleagues from across the House have spoken to as well. And I think you might argue that it doesn't matter. If you look at this bill, what's going to change if we have the word woman rather than person? But it matters, and it matters a lot. My noble friend Lord Hunt really pressed this point, and he was right to do so. And I think more than anything, it is just common sense. We're not here to pass legislation that doesn't make sense to the public who we represent. And if we were to go out into the streets of our country and try to explain to the electorate, to our citizens, that we've got ourselves into a position where in a bill that deals with maternity, we're not permitted to use the word woman, they would think they would not know where we were coming from. And yet that's the argument that the Minister in the House of Commons made. And it's the argument I thought that the Minister was making today. So common sense and clarity. It must mean that legislation we pass makes sense in its language to the people whose lives it will affect. But of course, why it's even more important is the wider cultural context in which this debate is taking place. And there is a wider debate at the moment that risks denying that biological sex exists. I can't sign up to that. And I think it makes it far more difficult for the women-only spaces and the protection of women in certain circumstances that has been hard fought for over the years to be carried out. And as Lord Hunt said, you can see public bodies and areas of public policy where they're now struggling about how much or how little they can use gender-specific pronouns. And this has got to be sorted. You know, equality of opportunity and gender-neutral language was never about making it difficult or embarrassing or awkward for us to use gender-specific pronouns when that is appropriate to do so. And to think in this debate, which can be difficult as social mores change, I accept that and I understand that. As Baroness Gray-Thompson said, it's about finding a language where all feel comfortable, but it was never meant to be in a situation where women were fearful of actually expressing a view that they strongly held. So I think it does matter. And I welcome the gender neutral language where appropriate. I can remember in my first bill in the House of Commons that I was involved in legislation about teachers where the word he, I was told, had to apply to women teachers as well, and where the term headmaster was actually applying to head teachers of any gender. And that's what the legislation in terms of gender neutral language was trying to overcome. And we must be clear at that because we must defend that. But we mustn't allow what was a good piece of legislation or a good piece of advice to muddy the waters on some of the key issues. The last point I'd like to make, and this really is my plea to the Minister, is I'm not sure why the government has used the term person rather than woman. I wasn't sure, having read the debate in the House of Commons, And I'm not sure, having listened to the Minister today, because I'm pretty sure that the 2007 guidance didn't require the government to use the word person. And the question I would ask is this: is the Minister saying that if today he was presenting legislation to the House that talked about women who get pregnant, that bill would not have the force of law? Is that what he's saying? Because if he's saying that, I think I would challenge it, and merely on the grounds that legislation that's been passed since the 2007 guidance, whether it be bills relating to maternity or pension or equality of rights, uses the term woman. And if it would have been legal to bring the bill today to use the term woman rather than person, why didn't he do so? If it wasn't compulsory, it had to be a matter of choice. And if the government chose to use the word person rather than to use the word woman, I hope that in his closing remarks that he will be able to explain that. Other than that, I think the Minister has been helpful, both in the meeting that he had with some of us before this debate today and in the open manner in which he introduced the debate. I hope that he will continue to act in that way as we take this bill through the House of Lords. Thank you.
The next speaker